record, he was on Najin EM Fire was where he was before Rockstar, because LGD happened a little later, and it wasn't very good, you're right.
It was
But,
like a wave form. Like, the ups
Yeah.
and downs of Peanut are just so
Man.
deep. We're seeing one now. He's up on the moment for Genji, but we've seen those
Yep.
international slips before.
And it turned up into this tournament, he wasn't playing that much Nidalee. He was getting banned against him a lot, and they were banning it a lot, but they just couldn't give it over, and so they have to pick up the Nidalee. And Kuro's got his Victor, and Rocks have the Ashe Syra, and that Misfortune counter, which they haven't practiced, there's no way they can pick it, is now off there against the best bot lane in the tournament so far. Kuro's on his signature Victor. You've got the Olaf for Peanut, which he's a monster on. You're thinking, oh boy. This is still the year when Jin is absolutely ruthless, by the way. This is when Jin had first come out, and he's like on, I think it was, what was it? Was it the... What was the tech that was really busted with him? Was it Fervor of Battle? I forget what the one that was really busted on him.
Is it the burn?
Maybe. Was it Deathfire Touch? Maybe it was that.
Deathfire Touch.
Oh, my days. And so like SKT are like scrambling to come up with a comp, and they get... They start to come up with something a little bit crazy, and then they lock in the Zillion, they lock in the Gnar, and it's going to be I believe it's a Zillion mid for Faker, and they're just... It is all about getting shoving lanes and giving Bengi the room to try and make things happen on this Nidalee, and maybe Bang can try and win out on this overpowered Jin at the same time.
It's such a classic. Like, this is now the textbook subbing in a player mid-series in the leagues where that is available, because you've just given your veteran all the tools. You've let him sit in the coach's lap for the last 2 hours. He's watched everything with, like, map hacks on. He's in the audience. He knows exactly what Peanut's been up to. And now you've given him the question, whoops, we now have to pick Nidalee. You have all the tools. You now must display your talent, else we're going home.
And it is important to note that Nidalee had been broken like the entire year. And basically part of the reason why Blank was playing and Bengi wasn't was it felt like basically Bengi couldn't play Nidalee. That was the assumption. And and the cast at the time were like, oh my days, they've left Nidalee and they're going to have to give it over. And they don't. And Smeb gets his Rumble. Smeb, along with the likes of Duke and Someday and Marin.
He's up there.
And later the likes of Huni. Basically were kind of notorious for basically the best top laners in the LCK were all gods at Rumble. And Smeb was no exception. And you're looking at this comp and you're going, oh God, it's a deciding match. It was 2 a.m. in the morning for when I was watching this. And Bengi subs in, gets Nidalee, and shortly history begins.
Any moment now. The stakes of these players, I think, can't be understated. This is SKT trying to go back to back. They've done it twice. Now they want to be the first to do it. Twice on the run. This is the demon that eluded them, as you've mentioned. In the LCK these days, we sort of have this like great hierarchy. T1 may be about to do the same thing these days. After a dominating win today, it's like, will they take it to Genji? Genji looked so good at pulling that back in 2023 at MSI, I should say. Looked so good at pulling that back in their domestic finals. But now, not so convinced that T1 have hit the ground running again. This is T1 losing 2 in a row, backs against the wall. It's not even going to be a reverse sweep. They couldn't get 2 games on the board in the first place. And at Madison Square Garden, the old man of the jungle has to do it himself.
The left hand of God, that was the nickname. This man and his synergy with Faker was something really, really special. This is back with the old jungle items as well. And importantly, the upgraded Smites Tracker's Claw. I think it was the Tracker's Claw. Was that the name of it? I remember the name. But
that's the green one, I think.
It was. And it was just absolutely busted because you could AoE clear camps. And on champions like Nidalee, on champions like Olaf, it was silly.
Oh, wait. Purple is AoE Smite, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure no. Trackers gave you loads of... Trackers gave you wards.
Yes.
From what I remember, and of course, which was a big deal.
Green was wards, red was PvP, and blue was a chilling smite.
Yeah, and so this was kind of the OG take on smites. And at this point, I believe you had, depending on what camp you smote as well, you would get different camp abilities. Well, you get like a little ward from the
wolf,
from the wolves,
a spirit that tracks people.
Gromp did a poison thing.
Yeah, isn't chickens like just straight damage? I remember that one being so broken.
Yeah, there was you throw him back and you're looking at some of these items and you're going, what on earth happened? There you go, Deathfire Touch for Jin, there it is.
There it is.
Further battle for Ashe.
Gosh, it's further battle. No, Ashe has Warlords. Further battle on Duke in the top lane. That would go on to become Conqueror as we know it today.
Indeed.
Windspeaker's blessing for Wolf.
Oh my days. Look at this. This is the year after the map change, but long before the likes of the item reworks in a lot of ways. And it's interesting to see how things like overlays and stuff have shifted over the years as well. And it's pre-rework Victor as well, where he's still got his hex core in inventory. But Kuro's Victor was a thing of beauty. I think for a mid lane that was often the more supportive piece of Rock's Tigers, with their very aggressive jungler and top laner and a big playmaking support and a wonderful sort of playmaking AD carry as well. Kuro was often asked to be the more reserved member of the team, and the Victor was kind of the exception to that rule, where he could still find pressure, still be a carry threat with it, alongside his Varus mid of all things.
I think he'd have gone on to be an incredible Azu if he kept going. Absolutely nuts. I think the only reason we don't think of Kuro more when it comes to history is the year later Crown was in the same setup here.
Yeah, he really was. And Crown kind of... But the thing is, Crown succeeded, where Rocks eventually didn't quite make it work. This Wonder team had the misfortune of running into, of all teams, SK Telecom, who are a really, really monstrous organization who have been so successful for so long and proved to be nothing less than that in this game as well eventually.
We don't want to give the entire thing away, but he ran into Bengi when he needed to show up. And as we've sort of spoken, as we've sort of spoken about, this old man can't play Nidalee, right?
No, he can't. That was the whole deal. And he's been first to force time it on stage in Madison Square Garden in a literally series deciding match in the semifinals against the team that is supposed to be the best of the LCK, who have usurped your throne. That is a ridiculous amount of pressure on you.
The idea that SKT weren't just going to sweep Summer and go Golden Road was crazy. And then Katie Rolston just decided, it's like...
reverse sweep.
Not today, friends.
No, not today. And then from out the side, the slow, the spear. Kuro's going to have to flash away. And already, suddenly you start to see the Bengi Faker synergy coming on through. Incredible stuff to see with the bombs and the slows.
Bang & Wolf. This is the premier 2v2 bottom lane. Ashe Zyra in this tournament. That's so much. And you see them on the back foot, and you see from the shadows.
Oh, the javelin toss. It's so close, but now Gorilla and Prey in a difficult position. Overcomes Peanut. But remember, there's the second flash. Gets one out, and Peanut does his best to ward off that Nidalee from invading with the Brolaf. Still so scary, and already big advantage in the bot lane. Yes, the summoners are gone on both sides, but the pressure is very much there for SKT at this point in the game.
It's 2 spears, 2 flashes. Look at the official broadcast as they espouse Peanut as Olaf, eliminating, at the time, incredible team in EDG. The quarterfinals was not close.
It was not. It was a bit of a shellacking, and then suddenly, again, the bombs, the slows, the spear. There's no way out. First blood on the dive in mid lane. Bengi flashes over the wall. He goes, and he's out. Bengi gets first blood on the Nidalee he's never played, outsmarting the mid jungle from Rocks.
I don't think there was a room watching this final at the time that was quiet there. From
mad.
The river. It might seem more plausible in current day. We got champions that move a bit faster, move a bit further. Kuro just evaporated from the river. Thanks to Old Man Hands, who we did, there's plenty to flame him. It was easy to go on a major chat show. And Bengi's just chilling. He's just covering, right? He's covering for the counter gank. And he just immediately eviscerates Kuro. Gets away with it as well. That first tower shot come down. You're like, 1-for-1. That's incredible. The wave coming in. It gets better.
It really, really does. And it's just how potent Nidalee is early on in the game. And especially this year when Nidalee was like really, really, really strong. Like Nidalee was by far the most...
jungle change, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not long into that era.
When Sven Skerrett on SK Gaming picked it up and went invading at level 3 over the Dragon Wall to get in, because Nidalee cleared so fast, you could turn up at the enemy's second buff and murder them there where they were like level 2. It was ridiculously strong. And you've got this double setup with the bombs and the slows that makes Kuro's life so difficult. And he's just like what we've kind of come to learn about Nidalee later on, but it was like being learned in real time by Rock Tigers this game.
This is when it happened. This was the sort of demarcation of the Rocks Tigers. It's just like, yeah, you're incredible, but we bought Grandad out, and Grandad says you're not allowed to play anymore. And it's just this incredible moment in history where it's like, this is Peanut at his prime. You saw that statistic, did not die on Olaf against EDG, an incredible tournament team. And if we look at the gold advantage, 500 by 7 minutes is pretty nice. We've seen the summoners blown from the most dominant bottom lane. Smeb on his signature champion might be up in CS, but hasn't been able to get out of the map yet for fear of running into this guy.
I mean, what more do you want to say? Just looking over at Peanut stats from summer of 2016, 90% win rate on Elise, 100% on Gregors, 100% on Nidalee. He pulled out the Olaf, especially at the World Championship as well, and was looking absolutely monstrous on that as well. And it felt like this guy who had kind of come in and sort of had a revelation in this year, this whole team that had been a load of misfits, a load of players that just couldn't make it work. Smeb was arguably the worst top laner in the league for large portions of 2015. And so they come together, and Peanut on these carries is a monster. And then Bengi picks up his signature pick against him, gets first blood against him, and it's starting to get just a little bit scary. I mean, it's still a close game, right? It's only 600 gold ahead. It's only 7 minutes in. This is pre the likes of Herald, big consideration. Bang, a little danger, but here's a teleport into lane because, of course, no Unleash teleports and open up the curtains. Faker's here with the slows, and that's just monstrous amounts of slows and damage. And Prey and Gorilla are down to a third HP once more.
We talk about Faker now as sort of the all mid laner, but even back then, playing something like Zillion is trusting your team to do the work for you. So we see the stun, that's the Golem smite buff coming through on a Bengi. Bengi's hands are even heavier than you would expect just for picking Italy. He's not as heavy compared, like Peanut here has much less to do. Sure, he's on another carry. They're using this new expanded jungle to influence the map. But at least Victor is the control mage with the backwards and forwards. You've got that ability to pump out some damage. Your team fight ult in combination with your gravity will shape your opponent's team fight positioning, but it will also add extra. Faker's got none of that. He's given it all away in a year where he's looked absolutely incredible as a player. He's elected to give it all to Bengi. That teleport bot, it does not matter if Faker goes down another 10 CS here. He's doing great as is. But he's trusting his team to see it through. He's the defensive option right here.
Yeah, he's also a lot of the setup right for the Nidalee, for the Jhin. You've got so many routes and long-range stuns to kind of catch people in place. You still got to deal with the Olaf. You still got to deal with a Victor, Rumble, Ashe. Sorry, that's a lot of AoE CC and damage that for those team fights. But see the damage being thrown down at the tier 1. Gosh. Ignite when it used to affect turrets back in the day.
Yeah, I just
taken desperately low.
The Golem buff snaps on towers. That's what it was for. It was for structural damage. It consumes itself. So you'd go clear some camps, stun them up, come out on full health, bop that tower. That was used so sparingly, I completely forgot about it.
And it was very specific onto certain lanes. Good flash from Bang. And you could see why Prey became so desperately famous for his Ashe teleport for teleport. Smeb throws down the equalizer. Bengi's here though, and it's going to force the retreat. We've got the double TPs come through, and the collapse begins. Root begins to come through for the Karma. Now Javelin toss goes wide, and the curtains get called. And Rock's Tigers in a difficult position. The curtains are called, but is it a tragedy or a comedy? They'll find out. Oh my God, the damage is brutal from Bang. Now Smeb's in charge of the heal comes through. Peanut trying to buy time with the undertows, but Bengi throwing up more CC. The Deadly First won't claim another kill, but already SKT turned that one around, and that was a Rocks collapse.
Rocks come together. It's not enough. They will cede over priority for the Dragon. This tower, Faker dives even deeper, delay the tempo, break Rocks' ability to regroup. And without the map, they don't have a gold lead just yet, but SKT have just vanished. An incredible engage from Rocks. A lot of tools now gone, and you'll see they're completely off kilter, off tempo. T1 can come back out on the map, but Rocks are left with their jungler pathing away to the top lane.
And this was after the tier 1 falls, and Prey lands or nearly lands a phenomenal hour, and Bang with a very clutch flash, gets himself out to safety and thinking, TP's coming through. Oh boy, this is going to be a disaster for SKT, and yet Temporal.
Indeed, it was not to be. You mentioned Prey, so famed on this Ashe. The fancy feet on this guy are incredible. We're not going to see a lot of them yet. Unfortunately, the angle here onto Gorilla just found. You see Prey and Peanut trying to synchronize Smeb, trying to cover. It wasn't enough of the re-engage in mid, off tempo, off kilter.
Oh, it's unfortunate he's dead to rights. The bomb's on him. It's a tick and a boom for Bang.
And you'll see Kuro still coming off of base. Peanut forced to clear his jungle if he wants to come out straight into an objective and support his team, and his team can't even stay there.
Just saw those bang stats pop up at the top of your screen as well. 3-0, 21 KDA on Jin. Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, we take those, I think. That's very doable, even in this era.
Yeah, and this is, of course, back when Jin was significantly more potent than he has been as of late. This was when Jin was, at some point, people thought perhaps untenable to balance, even with how strong he was with runes and certain items at the time. He was just so potent with the likes of his fourth shot and just the amount of burst he could pull out with his R and his W from such long ranges.
I remember sort of the pre-Sejuani jungle, jungle, which comes next year, or maybe the year after. From this 2015 standpoint, 2016 standpoint, it is on the screen in big letters. Right
in the middle, mate.
God, I'm so old. That would come in the next year. The Jin would finally not be able to 4-tap someone. It took that long for an equalizing force to come along that wasn't like, oh yeah, by the way, if Jin gets full rotation, you're toast.
And you can see the pressure that both teams put towards the bot lane had been so important in games 2 and 3, where the Praying Gorilla and Bang and Wolf were kind of the preeminent bot lanes, really, in the LCK. You know, the likes of Arrow out there as well, of course. Yeah. Pretty scary on KT. He himself's good, and of course, Score in the jungle, another big force. And they did take down SKT, but really, it was Bang, it was Wolf, it was Praying Gorilla. These were the bot lanes to fear. And Bang, the Karma Shield just about enough to get out of danger there. It was, as we were saying, like it was the bot lanes to watch, and it felt like Praying Gorilla were just better for the games 2 and 3. They'd found the angle and kind of broken Bang and Wolf. This game, everyone's down there. Everyone trying to make it work.
We'll notice that no one has rushed an objective yet, despite like in current era, you're probably like, why haven't you got the dragon?
Yes.
When the elemental dragons came in, they removed a system that was like, oh, your first dragon gives you this buff, your second dragon gives you this buff, and it was like gold damage. The fourth one was incredible.
Yes, it was.
I remember what it was. I'm glad I removed that.
5 Drakes was the soul, wasn't it? Whatever it was. Or
I think 5 Drakes was like right click your opponents and they're going to disappear.
Yes, that's what I remember as well.
And these elemental drakes, which you know and love today, were just seen as so inferior. You will get some of them. They're random. And after a while, there'll be an Elder Dragon. So why bother to take them if Elder is on the clock anyway? There's no rush. There's no need to expose yourself to a team fight where Peanut can maybe Ragnarok straight down onto a carry.
And this is kind of when games used to pretty consistently go 35 minutes plus. You know, a lot of the LCK games were 40 minutes plus, and it was down to those late game scenarios where Baron really didn't have that same base breaking potentially used to.
We think of 2 Barons today. You're on at least 3 in LCK. In 2016, it was a long time to sort of watch and play those games, and like even just watching at home, it's a long day of spectating.
And of course, and especially against 2 teams that were basically crossing swords at the highest level. Like these 2 teams, you know, the first game was SKT managing to finesse their way to a victory and having Faker fancy feed his way around a load of attempted ganks and them coming up with a victory, and then Rox coming up with the absolutely incredible kind of cooking in the bot lane to break the Zyra pick with the misfortune of the Ashe, and it was looking pretty doomed. And then SKT let through the Nidalee accidentally, we find out after the series. Bengi has to first time it, and you're linking, okay, the swords are crossed, but it feels like there's the chink in SKT's armor. They've had to pull out a new weapon, and not only that, they've had to use the weapon in an unusual way. Bengi in a challenging position, but he already found the first blood, and he helped get SK2 to an early enough lead here, but it's the Jin at this point, and the fact the arrows begin to land a little bit, but is it too little? Is it too late? They're going to throw everything in. The teleports begin to come through, and the turnaround now pretty brutal. Bengi stepping forward, gets some damage down. Kuro, death ray out, and that's the end of it, but teleport summoned, and see how very quick both teams are to protect their AD carry.
Yeah, that's back in the day. The cancelled teleport there from Faker.
Back in the day, flipping egg.
Being able to say, actually, no, I've had my desired effect, thank you. I'll leave Bengi wrapping around once again with such a menace on this pick.
Just getting some slows. There's a route afterwards, and Prey's now in danger. Remember, he's got the slow. The teleport's coming through themselves. Bengi on the wrong end of a ranger's focus, but he has to walk away. Peanut being ghosted, going forwards. There's the equalizer, but it was towards the side to try and prevent an easy extraction towards the one side. Doesn't happen, and everybody's there. Of course, all the while, Duke's been shoving in that top side, looking to get some more damage down onto this turret, and Smeb without the equalizer costs him a little bit in this top side. So very swift are these teams to try and collapse on these mid laners, and particularly these AD carries, as we've seen, 4 times so far?
We can definitely see the tension building up here. If Rox win this, they've
Penis.
done what they have not been able to do before. They will have made it past SKT into the World Championships final.
And they were supposed to be the better team in spring. That was when Juggernaut was at its peak, when Prey was absolutely murdering people in that champion. And they get 3-1 in the finals, and it's not close. And Peanut has a rough one. It's his worst series by far. And then in summer, they're thinking, okay, we'll finally get taken down in the finals. And SKT just lose to KT. And Rox never get to play them. And then Rox turn up to Worlds, and actually they look a bit sloppy. SKT look dominant. They go 5-1. They feel a bit irritated about the one game they lost. Rox, 4-2 in groups. They lose to Albus Nox Luna at some point, I think it is. Albus Nox Luna come out second in that group. And you're thinking, Rox, they warm up through the tournaments, and they kind of have a decent series against EDG, yes, but groups looked pretty rough. And then they turn to this one, and suddenly all the things they've been hiding come out. And you're thinking, that's what's been going on. They've just been holding it back. Yeah. And they are just so close to bringing out an SKT, that team that they just could not fell however long it took.
It was a real sort of reserved performance from them. Like, in the case of they weren't showing their personalities. All of these picks here can be built back to these players. Prey and Kane were the Ashe plus some sort of range support lane of all time. There is no one who will do it better. There is no meta that will match that in the future ever again. Enchanters now have just taken all of that gameplay away. There is no one like Smeb's Rumble. It probably just won't happen. He's up there with Odo Omne from Europe.
Smeb's Cannon as well. We all know it.
Oh my lord, we see the clip every time Europe is in the mud at an international event. It's like, oh, could be worse, could be G2 again. We've got to put Europe in the mud after today. Mad Lions, you deserve it. What have you done?
It's been a rough day to be a rough couple of days to be a European fan. Perhaps a good one to be an LCK one, as both teams pulling out some extraordinary games.
I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, exactly. Mom and Dad are fighting, apparently.
They really are.
And, the T1 of today that have that incredible win rate with a kind of new generation. Really, Faker, the only player today still active from both of these rosters. Still in the mid lane for SKT. Now T1, of course. Still one of the absolute best in the game, even if perhaps not the current reigning best player in the world. I think that probably goes to his support player in Carrier. But
definitely on many
a lot of the legacy built here.
I feel like this isn't even the same Peanut we see these days. Peanut after this went through a real time, collected his paycheck out there in the LPL, but every time he went international, it would go south so fast.
He was on Gen G for a bit and had a mixed time. This was the height of Peanut as a true carry threat. He had Spring 2017 on SKT, where he looked pretty scary. They won MSI. And then summer happened, and it doesn't quite work out the same way. He ends up subbing with Blank again a little bit. We get to the finals, and Peanut isn't he wasn't the promised carry jungler that was supposed to be. He wasn't this kind of final handing of the reins from Bengi over to another jungler, where Faker and Bengi, this indomitable duo that just had synergy beyond what mechanics would necessarily tell you. Not that Bengi was necessarily the worst mechanical player ever, but he was not the god carry of old when he was on his Lee Sins and Elises back in like season 3.
Not only that, the fans let him know about it every time.
Oh yes.
That back in the day, things were just as heated, and if you were seen to be holding back Faker, the SKT fans were very unhappy with your performances. Always.
It's always a tricky place to be. The spotlight on SKT, like no other team in the world, it feels like. At least when it comes to League of Legends, of course. A lot of that has to do with the legacy, has to do with the history, has to do with playing with Faker. Anybody who saw the MSI trailers today will have heard that inaudible line of saying the Demon King has woken up. Faker saying that himself chills down your spine, and certainly felt like it today. The Nautilus early game, not so great. The Nautilus mid and late game, absolutely disgusting. Duke finds himself on the wrong end of a gank. Run away. Meganar's coming up, and another one of those champions at the height of its powers. Stopwatch has to be burned by Smeb. Well, it's not Stopwatch, it's Zonya's, of course. Stopwatch a little way to come, and Faker flashes in, helps get the kill. Faker continuing to speed up his jungler, And Faker and Bengi, this duo just so scary, does finally fall. But it's over to the Zyra. Kuro is here. Wolf in a difficult position. May need to flash himself, does so. But now the curtain's called. Wolf into the wrong space, but has shows being sped up outside of that. Bengi does take out Kuro as well. And Duke back into the fray. Goes back to base and teleports back in. And SKT 5-1 in a deciding game after a monstrous play on the top side.
The SKT players have hit their spikes. They choose their time. Faker goes the full distance, plays himself out completely, and with that advance on the top line, what looked like a great gank for the Rocks Tigers. They came together, they thought they'd found Duke, maybe the weaker spot. As we see here, they found him into the tower. Smeb won't hesitate as soon as it's called by Peanut. He gets the slow, instant reaction to try and pile damage onto this Gnar. Faker commits fully here. He might be behind Duke for now, but watch as they come in for the dive. Duke gets the CC, and through the Ragnarok, Faker is still moving forward, still sending it for Bengi, who dives around the outside as unexpected as a Nidalee could possibly be in this era. Commits fully, sponges a load of ultimates. That Zyra damage, even back at this age, is huge. And Bengi and Wolf, watch as they fall away. They pull Kuro out. They let Bang into the play. This Mountain Dragon, sort of you just get a random one each time, just as damage to objectives. With Baron now being a threat, this is worth a quick pickup. SKT move down, and it's that dissociation of dragons. These days you just pick it up, you get the stats, you get your time, you get your experience. Back in the day it was more of a measured calculation. It's like, do we want to do this? Is this worth our time? They'll pick it up though.
The value got for them significantly lower, of course, because Mount Dragon, as you said, was just damage to objectives. It wasn't a particularly exciting dragon to have. And
it was the LCK Baron Rush. You know, there were lots of flips because in a 40-minute game, did it really matter that much anyway? How good was your setup? An extra 10% could go a long way. As you mentioned, the Juggernaut meta that precedes this really thought about those Mountain Dragons carefully.
That was one of the exciting things about Rocks. They were the chefs before that became a kind of concept within the League of Legends and wider world. They were the guys who came up with who pioneered Juggernaut, who pulled out the Misfortune support. They had so many of these crazy picks, the Varus mid, all of these things that were just that little bit crazy, that little bit wild. Peanut playing a battle warding style in the jungle. Who needs wards when I can just face check and find out where people are myself? And if they're on my screen, well, I don't need to have wards because I can see them. And that was kind of the way you played this. And Rocks just played so interestingly, so innovatively for a team that was kind of supposed to be a nothing.
They had no money. They had, like, the incentive was just, we got to play the games, guys.
And then on the other side is against SKT, the team with all the prestige, with all the history. There is a reason why this rivalry became so beloved, and both teams so beloved, but just in different ways.
Yeah, there's been rare a time where a team has been more equipped than SKT or T1 to challenge the LCK.
And it's wild as well, because the arrow will stop the curtains, but Prey is in such a dangerous position, has to flash out. Deadly Flourish blocked by Peanut, but you can see how aggressive Bengi has been with the assistance of, honestly, this Jhin and this Zilean helping set up for the Nidalee, which, you know, you look back and you go, that's exactly how Nidalee should be played. Nidalee Renekton was such a potent duo for such a long time. And you can sort of see the concept here, Jhin setting up the roots and the kind of the range poke between the Nidalee and the Jhin at the height of his power is pretty obnoxious.
This is sort of where that dynamic came from, the aggression displayed by old man No Hands over here, who's currently 1-0-2 and is taking
That's been popping off, frankly. He's been playing super well.
2 task, absolutely crushing. You know, Peanut, the jungler who showed up. As soon as Rocks Tigers took down EDG, it was like, oh, hello, new favorites.
He's back.
You better perform.
He's back.
He's in.
And he's playing Lee Sin. Like he played one Lee Sin game the entire season. One Lee Sin game for Peanut. And then he suddenly comes to Worlds and he's playing Lee Sin, looking damn good on it. But the Nidalee's nowhere to be seen. And suddenly the Nidalee's left open for the first time. And you're thinking, oh, God. And instead it goes over to Bengi, who has gone Initialise and Abyssal Scepter, of all things on this champion, to try and be a little bit of a supportive Nidalee build.
I miss Abyssal Scepter so much. The way jungle items work back in the day as well. We've actually got some incredible items in front of us. The Cinder Hulk for Peanut, which is plus 10% full health.
That item was just not okay.
Ridiculous. That's Sunfire Cape, but why would you ever build Sunfire Cape? Because it gives you 10% HP forever.
This was also the patch where it was just Sunfire Iceborne on practically every top lane, and for the first game, we've not got either. We've got Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, and Leandri's and Zhonya's. Like the two champions that don't build that. But that was such a thing at this point as Peanut. The wrong end of this one. He's going to have to start running away. Holy moly. Has to.
Into that full tank.
Run out that one. My God, the damage is huge. Full tank Peanut just.
That was 2 shots.
Shredded.
Plus some abilities. That's what Jin does back in this time.
Monstrous. And Pere constantly throwing out these arrows, but not so much luck as Gorilla deleted by this Nidalee, and Bengi proving those lies about his hands just that. Slander as he gets a double, flashes on out. Right, finally fall, but bang at the back end of it. The equalizer will punish him, and they've gone just a little bit deep, but it was stylish nonetheless.
And that catch-up always, Bengi inviting the enemy in. Look, I'm on no health, heals up, turns it back around. That pace on the play, that being at the end of every piece of his team CC is absolutely classic here. This is where that play style comes from. This is where the sort of big first showing was of like, this is what I can do. This is what a great player can do if you give them these tools. If these teammates work together. And we'll see it here. Look at the piece of every bit of CC. Bang hits it. Gorilla's there. Takedown. Removes the big team fight. Ultimate. Faker makes Kuro flash. Gets him to stand still. Bengi's on the end of it. He's there. He finishes it off. Prey, the last big carry on this team. Hasn't just been sent to base. Invited in by a Bengi on low health. Doesn't quite get to turn it around. But at the same time, the value was there. And
you've got to shout out. Faker just tanked the turret by standing there with his ult on him. Just stood there tanky it, died under tower, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but I'm not going to die here, and just really heads up play from SKT. This kind of jungle mid ADC kind of combo, all setting up for each other to pull off these incredibly aggressive plays onto a very squishy comp, frankly, from Roxy. Yes, you've got the Cinderhulk on the Olaf, but we've already seen how not tanky he really is. And SKT playing with a real verve for them in a ridiculously stressful scenario. Like, the pressure that is on SKT, who kind of were looking really good through the tournament, but now on the verge of elimination as a team that are the defending world champions, supposed to be the best in the world, but the best player in the world, and are kind of being pushed by their rivals of the year, the biggest rivals in many, many years. Because SKT kind of had KT for all the telecom wars, but it was always a kind of what if? Were KT really that good? Was it just against SKT as Bengi? Shut down. Little bit over-aggressive there. Little bit over-aggressive there.
You know, that's half the reason I called out the Zyra at the start of the last fight. That commands the meta right now. How are you ever going to reach this Ashe when there's a giant AoE no zone in front of you? And if you go a little too far, a little too fast, you'll see things like Bengi running into it there. And it's sort of a marker about how well he's done the rest of this game. Not to like completely spin it around. We are telling history here rather than real events. But this entire tournament, getting over a Zyra ultimate is a jungler's hardest job. And he's been doing it so well so far. That's what it looks like when it goes wrong, because I've only got time to cast one game this evening.
Wow, exactly. And you can sort of see how scary it is, right? But the thing is, if you do get over it, that's a lot of very squishy members as Faker being run out. And maybe it's just SKT having a couple moments, having been playing so damn well. He's just so fast, though. Between Wolf and Faker, the speed is unreal. And you can see why it's been so difficult to land these arrows when you have got shield speed ups from Defiance and a bit of a sudden stopwatch top. Well, they whatever. What's the speed up from Zilean called? It's
I refuse to learn Zilean abilities.
It's unreal. I know. I should know that. But the point being, it's very hard to land onto a lot of very high mobility champions and Swifties, and the speed up Bang gets from his passive. You know, it's actually quite tricky to land these arrows. Not as easy as you like, because somewhere off screen, Bengi's just murdered Zyra.
Even the observer's struggling to keep up right now. He's got his Oracle's Elixir on, prowling through the jungle. Bengi's lead at this stage is huge. That item on his jungle lets him place wards, so he's always getting aggressive, always looking to get the vision to set the pick that we've seen him follow up on time and time again. That lets him place 2 wards at once, I believe. That jungle item, and if you go back to base, it fills up again. And it's got an enchantment called Magus, which we would now know as Luden's Tempest.
Indeed. Oh, Smeb's in so much danger. Dear God, the damage is huge. Throws down the equalizer. Mr. Tommy, another deadly flourish gets it. Flash away from the arrow, and SKT have been so ruthless at these dives. Smeb's so famous Rumble 1 and 3. And you start to see the difference that Bengi brought to this team, this game.
It's the precision time and time again. Faker here going down, expending all his cooldowns, but Kuro is as well. He won't be up to defend his teammates. And while SKT have reached a stalemate in mid, they're past the halfway point over the river. And once again, they're in for vision.
Yeah, the time warp. Remember the ability now. He does it again. There's a meme in that somewhere. Gets himself out to safety. And you can just sort of see how obnoxious this comp can be together. As we said, the range, the poke, the CC, the ability to revive that person who's going to be doing the diving makes Gorilla's life so much harder. And he has been so good. He's been the best support in the world by many people's margins. And in a tournament that was a little bit scrappy from Rox, having done that one last thing that was required of them, finally winning the LCK in a year where they looked so dominant the regular season. But SKT were the ones really to beat them with a pip every single time, finding that opportunity, as we've been saying, to put that to bed, to prove that they really were the best team. This massive rivalry between the Titan, the Behemoth, the reigning champions in SKT, the face of dynasty, really, for the LCK.
The team that did it all, that won World so convincingly, and then was set
did
to
it in
do
StarCraft.
It again. Yeah.
They did it in every esports. They were Korean royalty. They had the Demon King to kind of continue all those references, and it kind of made sense. And you had Rox, this plucky underdog team of nobodies that were supposed to be the best, but could they actually do it? And like that kind of contrast in styles and stories, play styles, frankly. Yeah. Here you are in a game where it's looking increasingly tricky for Rox, who are losing tower after tower. They've only got 2 and struggling really to maintain wave push, maintain vision control against the constantly roving packs and just engage range from SKT between the Nidalee and the Jhin and the speed up from Fragrant Wolf. They just turn up out of nowhere.
The standard trades of like Ash
Double
Arrow
TPs
into Jhin ult and
He's so
the movement around the maps are just so broken by SKT's
Can they finally get it?
decision making.
He's so quick. He's got to revive. He's going down. They've chased him halfway up a lane. SKT going to try and get over here, but they're finally going to throw out the R from Zyra. They finally kill him off, but at what cost? Prey. Running away. Dear Lord, the damage from that 4th shot is nothing to sniff at. You do get that pick, but it came at a cost. Now Bengi steals away some of those Raptors, sped up with the Defiance. Nothing comes for free in this game as the inhibitor tower is now being sieged onto.
Oh,
laser so
towers.
long.
Oh my lord, that's a flashback. Those are incredibly difficult to siege down. And if you do end up picking one instead of like by the 4th shot of a modern tower, you kind of, even as a tank, you're watching your health bar go down, even if it is huge. Those guys in front of the inhibitors and Nexus towers don't wait for 4 shots to start shredding tanks to pieces.
No.
And we've sort of seen, tanks not the most effective right here. If you do have a tank in this era, it tends to be one with an R ultimate or one that can blow up an AD carry like this Olaf, or a Kennen maybe that can still.
Or it's Sunfire Iceborne. It's Ashe and Echo and champions that are tanky. Oh yeah, this is the era of Tank Echo. In fact, you'll notice that Duke may or may not have a skin related to that one. No spoilers, but
I can't think where that comes from.
I know. I did. No, I did.
The series after this one, it's all on YouTube, folks.
There's arguably the most famous member of the crowd ever when Duke was on the Echo in that series. Go listen to that one. It was quite an experience. Oh, it stays with me all these years later. But you can sort of see that Baron just not an easy target either. Like, of course, SKT are the ones in control of this game and don't really have the best Baron taking power, and it's a real risk this game.
There's the nerves. There's the thoughts on gameplay at the time. You don't touch the Baron your opponent's coming in. LCK was famous for flips because otherwise they just couldn't end.
Particularly for the mid-tier teams, it was so hard. The upper-tier teams, that would just never happen. So against the upper-tier teams, you just had to flip. And then the likes of Rox and SKT would punish you for the temerity of doing so.
All right, we promise this game isn't 1 hour long, but we're going to see a sort of stalemate here. Both teams, nearly everyone getting 3 items. Everyone is role playing here, and it's something that was great in League at the time. Even if you were a bit behind, you always got your chance in a relatively high elo. It was hard to end the game quickly.
Oh yeah,
it required coordination, and it looks great on an esports page. But unfortunately for solo queue, it was a bit of a disaster.
Oh, solo queue was a nightmare. There's a reason they did the changes they did eventually. Is Peanut in danger, and you can see while it stalled out, SKT once again looking for some hunts. Peanut, if he goes down, that is Baron. There's no real way of stopping that very easily. Maybe throw down an equalizer, but mobility enough perhaps to get themselves off that one. And the stall continues 20 seconds until an Elder Dragon. It's late enough into the game that it begins to spawn past 35 minutes. That's when the spawn comes through. It's not after a set number of dragons. It's,
now everyone waits until Elder.
Oh,
happens.
yes.
There's nothing else as well for this on the map. You notice everyone's got their teleport up, past, I can't remember how long the cooldown even is in this era. Past a certain stage, it's like, right, Elder's coming up, don't you dare push that D button. It's not allowed, it's not happening.
Oh, Bengi! Burned his own flash, but now the turnaround can begin to come through. My days, who tanks these barrows? Oh, my days. Spears and bullets flying through, and that shooting gallery is one that Rocks Tigers are very unhappy to be in. Deadly Flourish goes wide, and while the kills have slowed down over the last few minutes, the damage is certainly not. You can see how tense it is, and the context of the series.
Only pausing here to make sure that Rocks don't even get the sad Baron as part of this trade. You have to go towards Elder. Elder's worth so much more. But if they can crunch Rocks at the Baron, why do you need an Elder Dragon?
You've got so much poke here as well. Finally, Dupe against TP and no Mega Gnar to speak of, but they're here anyway. Bang! With the speed ups. So dangerous. At this point, flash fourth shot! And finds another name on his list. One more down. Kuro on the other side, slowed down by Faker, down to half HP. That time warp taking him into that gut-wrenching bullet time. He knows he's in danger. Bang! On a killing spree. So dangerous on this one, and Duke still in that top lane. He's back. Bengi just trying to slow them down, prevent the backs. He's taken so low. Will finally fall. The jungler is there, but at what cost? They can't get back into the base. Duke is taking inhibitors. And now Smeb exhausted, trying to stay alive. Bang. So dangerous, trying to come back up. He's got himself a chrono shift. Coming back on. Faker slows down. Smeb back out. Bengo throws down a deadly flourish the other way. And a bomb on top of his head, and he has been a ticking time bomb, and he is hitting like an ICBM for sure. Throws out a curtain call, and from downtown, all the way from the LCK, bang, will take down his rivals, the Rocks Tigers. They can hear that, oh, so dangerous, so deadly, so disappointing, gut-wrenching sound of Silver Scrape being warmed up. They couldn't close it out. They're about to find themselves into a game 5, and it was in a game where Bengi has to pick up Nidalee. They lose an Nexus turret, but they don't quite lose the game yet. But you can feel it, can't you? That sinking in your stomach, the dread that fills you. Oh no, surely it can't go to 5. Not like this. We had this. And no, you didn't. No, you don't.
In Rox's final hour, they had to take that trade. The Elder Dragon was up. Kuro chunked out. The Jhin, time and time again, bang, finds the answer to this series. You'll see it here. The TP is cancelled in just a moment as Gorilla goes straight
1200.
down. That key teamfight ultimate missing. Now SKT's advance unbroken. A slowdown is enough to get Bang right up against Kuro. Remove him from the map instantly. Bengi with the Shadow Bullet just in case. Who's able to survive, pushes forwards, and all you had to do is expose the base. All we had to do is let the Gnar blast forwards. Doesn't matter that members of SKT sacrifice themselves. The value that is permanent on map that is so difficult to end.
And this is why
could not fight back.
Yeah, this is why Jhin at this stage of the game was such a deadly carry at 4 items. Man, because
look at his items. Just you built that today. How crazy is that?
I know. But the point of with the rapid fire cannon on the Jhin 4-shot, you're just doing 1,200 crits. He's doing 1,200 damage, and Prey's just going to die. The Nidalee gets another.
Half of Kuro's health with the next bullet. Nothing to sniff at. That's original Dustblade. That hits like an absolute truck.
Mikhail's on Locket. So hard to find space to kill off this one. Peanut under the tower, and he's going to be disappearing as well. Trying his absolute best, and this game is looking like a disaster. It's looking like the end of it. It's looking like Rocks doing their best to hold on, but they're just not enough. My stream fries a little bit, but Rocks can't hold it on.
SKT at this stage have complete control of the map with 2 objectives on it. You go coast to coast, and suddenly Rocks Tigers will be in a real world of trouble. They haven't got enough time to rush down the Elder. It does take a hot minute to actually secure that here. That's a big final boss on the map. They get the Baron. Now there's nothing else. All they have to do is go and scoop up their winnings.
7-1-3 on Jhin. 5-2-4 for this Nidalee, who's got a death cap. Who, frankly, like, you take those nameplates off, you don't think that's Bengi playing Nidalee. He comes in,
mate. Blank. What
having not played, like, it's like practically not played this tournament, and does this in a series-defining game. Unreal.
It's one Elder Dragon down, and we'll suddenly see back to base. full build for Bengi at 40 minutes, even with this sort of great scoreline. It took time to build up back then, and everyone burning from SKT. They'll blast it down mid. One last stand for the Rocks Tigers. Their one Mountain Drake, which rolled 3 times in a row. God, I loved randomness in my dragons. It made absolutely no sense.
It was an experience. It got worked on as the years went by. Still being worked on. Now you're looking at it, you're looking at those builds, you're looking at those items, and maybe some of those are a little dated for those newer viewers out there, but Void Stats and Death Caps and Rod of Ages and Old Morello, which used to give you pen and cooldown reduction.
Man, what an item.
It was brilliant. I loved it. I used to build it all the time on Elise. Oblivion Orb into that. Phenomenal stuff. Now Peanut in a dangerous position.
This is what Elder Dragon does.
Faker. Mikhail keeps him alive. They're going to throw down the R from Zyra, but it's just not enough. And now Prey in a dangerous position. Deleted from the face of the earth. Faker stands and holds on. The ultimate doesn't burn him out. Now Smeb on the side is double kill for Faker with the bullets. Smeb trying to find his way in his Duke with the GA frozen in place. Does not matter. Smeb rooted in place. Now bang over the wall. Throwing down a deadly flourish and half for Rumble's HP bar. Out of the robot he goes. Evangelion had it wrong. One final Nexus turret in SKT. They're screaming into the fountains. They're screaming for Silver Scrapes as Madison Square Garden erupted. And somehow, some way, that little smirk on Faker's face. Unbelievable.
It was the comeback to be. There was nothing quite like it at the time, where the Rocks Tigers had this in their grasp. They're like, we've finally met our greatest opponents, and we're away, and it's happening. We're gonna do it. 2 and 3, we're in. The sweep's coming, and it never came.
They were forced to ban Misfortune of all champions
banning Misfortune
as a support.
Is hilarious. Just back then, the idea of that is just absolutely wild.
I mean, not only that, it's the substitute, right? It's Benki coming in and playing Nidalee that's so broken that you've had to pick now. So you're not only having to force Misfortune, you have to first pick a champion for a player who's having to first time it on stage in a series-defining match against your biggest rivals who have you against the wall. Like, everything there says that should be Rocks Tigers with a win, and they have SKT dead to rights.
Sam Initialise Hapgood, you've cold cast your favorite series of all time from League of Legends and esports history.
Hello,
I
Ziggy.
present you with the Ziggy of Honor, this beautiful, beautiful pooch. Who, frankly, you know what? We're gonna do some live production right now, folks.
Yeah, do it.
Like, just make him big. Just huge in our hearts. There we go. There he is.
Look at that dog.
Look at that face.
She's a teddy bear.
That face?
No, literally. Like, no one in the family says no to that face. Like, she is the most spoiled dog in existence, I swear. She has, and I kid you not, a tiara that someone got her for Christmas. Like, it's a little plastic tiara because...
She's a princess.
Look, put it this way. Mum and Dad were a little bit, lonely because we weren't at home anymore, and so the dog was the replacement. No joke. That is the grandkid replacement. Right there.
Well, until esports offers you that sort of family hole in the future, go ahead, plug your stuff. Where can the people find more of you?
You can find me at Twitter at InitializeCast. You can find me on Twitch at InitializeCast. You can find me on Instagram at, surprise, InitializeCasts.
I sense some branding here. You did a big...
Absolutely. Indeed. So Twitter's on there. It's all under that. It's all under InitializeCast. You'll find me there. Come watch me do stuff. I'm doing loads of esports stuff where and when I can. That's a lot of streaming. That's casting. That's just good content, hopefully. We're doing hopefully more of this kind of show as we go along.
All right. There's going to be a break, of course, but make sure you stick at the LDL with Sam. It's going to be a great time. You're going to see probably the kings and queens of tomorrow from there. It's some ridiculous players this last year. That's where the best players are going to come from. Maths dictates. So you have this huge pool of invested people. It doesn't matter if they have that Korean ecosystem. They might end up inside of it at this rate. I mean,
it's like 800 players for a tryout, something like that. It's wild for every role in every team. Like, it is. That's to get into tier 2. It is a very competitive environment. So, I mean, it's a bit of an apocryphal story, but so the legends go.
So the legends go. All right. You've got to go out there and follow Initialise on all the socials. Praise be Ziggy. I've been Temporal. This has been the pilot show of an esports evening with good night, and we'll see you around. And cut.
Nice.
All right.
Not bad.
I think I'm probably going to turn the stream off now. Thank you very much for watching. If you have watched, if you're watching the VOD, I appreciate it even more. Yeah, we'll look to maybe do some of this in the future. I think that was all right. I think it could be
That
cleaned
wasn't
up a
bad.
touch. I think I can dry my hair properly for next time. I wasn't waiting any longer. I was like, no, like I'm excited again. I've got it back.
It's time.
That's all right. Yeah, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Mate, great fun. Some fun curveballs in there for sure.
Yeah, I think we gotta do deep dive. We gotta like do an activity at the end. I think that's missing from most esports interviews. Is just getting people out of their comfort zone a bit.
Yeah.
Mind you, it's kind of our comfort zone, but also not really.
Let's be real.
I think if we were casting that in 2016, we'd be in very different places.
Yeah, basically.
Time is weird.
That game, it's crazy. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, by itself, the game is cool. It's a cool game with some cool plays in it and like some fun comps. But I think like the context of that game is just like second to none. Like,
crazy.
Second to none. It's such a ridiculous game.
As Old Man Hands himself in the jungle, I was just like, oh, Bengi, you've done it to them. Like,
But because he plays it super well as well. Like that's a crisp Nidalee game largely as well.
All right, the stream is going off here. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.